Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining this webinar. In this webinar, Shruti, one of our developer evangelists, is going to talk about interactive maps using here technologies, APIs, and SDKs. So with that, I'm going to ask Shruti to introduce herself, and we can take it from there. Over to you, Shruti.
Thanks, Sam. Good evening, everyone. My name is Shruti Kuber. I work as a developer evangelist with Here Technologies. And if you were not attending the session an hour ago, so we had another session an hour ago where another of our developer evangelist, Richard Suzelbeck, introduced you to the APIs that Here Technologies have. So if you haven't really looked into that webinar yet, you'll find the recorded version later. And as for this webinar, so as I said, I work as a developer evangelist, and my job here is to help developers explore our products, help them use our products in a certain way. So I'm more like a glorified teacher. So today with the Hack for Better Days, we want you to use our APIs. We want you to use all your ideas, all your skills to be able to make something for sort of getting out of this situation, or when things get better or if things don't get better. So we want you to use your ideas to build something that addresses the challenges caused by this pandemic. Currently, I am one of the challenges that you can also think about is how to make sure everyone has Wi-Fi, as I am using a mobile hotspot now. So if my audio is not clear, if my screens are not clear, that's, please understand. So I can directly begin. So Here Technologies is a location technology company. We make maps. We've been making maps since 1985 or something, so like more than 30 years ago. And since then, we've been using our map data and collect having like we make our own maps, like I said. So we had so much map data, so we thought we need to make it available for developers to use it, because initially it was only automotive. We were if you have like a Mercedes or one of these cars, the internal navigation system, there's 4 out of 5 chances that the internal navigation system is ours. So if we were focusing on automotive, but since 2015, I guess, we've been opening up our APIs to developers to be able to use them in their applications. So if you want to build any application which is related to do anything with location, addresses, latitude and longitude, this is where you need to go. So you go to developer.here.com. This is the developer portal of Your Technologies. You'll also find the main site, but this is where the developers need to be. And then if you can see this nice little get started for free button, this is where you get your freemium credentials. Now, as the freemium plan says, you get 250,000 transactions per month, which are free. So if you sign in as with your just name, email ID, you don't need credit card information at all. So you just sign in with your basic information, and then you get 250,000 transactions for free. For this particular hackathon, you will be easily able to use the freemium credentials and get your application working. So without further ado, I'm going to just sign into my account. Let's see, not this one. So if you see this in the project section, you will see that I already have a freemium created. And then if you go to this section, you'll see that you have your JavaScript keys, your REST keys, and then you have the Android and iOS SDK keys. So for this particular webinar, or for this particular interactive maps webinar, I'm going to use my JavaScript key. So to give you an idea, if you want to see all the APIs that we have, so once we have our API key, you can just save it somewhere, and then we can get started with the whole development of the interactive maps. So if you go to the documentation section, you'll see that there are over 25 APIs which we provide as part of our maps and services, location data and services. And the way you would start if you want to make anything related to location, any application related to where you can see addresses, where you can route, navigate, etc. The way you would start at first, you would load maps. You would load a particular map. You would have the map do a certain things, look a certain way, and then from there you will be adding geocoding services to it. So geocoding is basically you enter an address and you get the location in the forms of latitude and longitude and many more endpoints. Also, if you are interested to know more about geocoding in search, there's another webinar with Richard Suzelbeck for geocoding in search. So make sure to attend that one. Then you have the routing, transit, intermodal routing. So you have an address and you need to route to that address. So you have the routing services for that. You can see you have the traffic APIs, you have other types of routing services. Then if you are building something for the logistics area. So if you are building something for an application which is for logistics and supply chain sort of application, you have the fleet telematics APIs, which is if you are driving a truck, there are certain roads which do not allow the truck to go of a certain height and width. So you can put in those restrictions and get a road which is legal for your truck to drive. You can have other restrictions. You can have custom routes, custom locations. You can have additional data sets. So that's fleet telematics. And then you have many more. So today we are going to focus on interactive maps itself, because today the idea is to get a map working. So if you go to the interactive maps, you'll see this vector tile maps. And if you click on the JavaScript documentation, you will see that the documentation is neatly laid upon, which is step by step. So again, get started, acquire credentials, and then what all you can do with the maps. So again, we've done acquire credentials. So I'm going to go for this part. So now to be able to use the maps, you need to load the map libraries. And the basic ones are you need to load the basic core map and then the map services. So a map core map is where you get the elements or layers of the map, and then map services were the JavaScript, the geocoding services, the routing services were part of the map services. So you need to load both of these to your application. So what I have here is a basic index.html. I have created like a sort of a window, a container to hold my map, and I have linked my credentials here. And again, I've already saved my credentials here. And so what I'm going to do is open up a map.js and then start building the map there. So initially, I need to have my map core there. Also, if the screen is not too clear, you can just write in the chat that um, the screen is not super clear and I can zoom it a little bit more. So again, I need my map core services. So I'm going to just copy this part and put it in my map core, put it as my map core. So I don't need the cat set. I already have this. So I have the map core, and then I want the map services libraries to be loaded. So I have this. So now so far what I've done is just created the map source, map services. And now what I can do is go and initialize a platform. So initialize the map platform with my credentials. So again, you'll find this in the developer.io.com. So I'm going to take this, initialize my platform, and put my API key there. So I already have it in the credentials.js. So I'm going to link that here. Window dot. Okay. And once I have this, now I need to initialize the map itself. Now, again, to initialize the map, one is that we need to load in the default layers of the map. So again, I'm going to load in the default layers. And again, you have an opportunity to change them as well, which we'll talk about further in this. Oh, Lord. Yeah, let me just do this again. So you have loaded the default layers of the map, and then you want the map in the certain window. You want it centered a certain way. So what I'm going to do is I've initialized the map, and so basically what I'm trying here is to put the map in the container that I've defined. Make sure the name here, the division name here, the division ID here, and this is the same. So you are saying that I want to load this map in here. And then I wanted the vector map. So the other option is to have a raster tile map, but the vector map will give you more layers as such. It'll give you more efficiency in terms of how your map is loaded. And then there are many more features why we would choose vector tiles as to raster tiles. If your application requires raster tiles, though, you can also look into the raster tiles maps. So then I want the zoom layer to be, let's say, 11, and then the center of the map. So I can obviously take this allocation from my browser, but the easiest way to get the location that you are is, let's say, you click on where you are, and then so you go to bgo.here.com, you click on where you are, and then in the URL, you will see the latitude and longitude of where you are. So, or you can just type any place you want. So I'm going to type Invalidenstrasse, Berlin. That's the office I work from, or rather, at this point, used to work from. And so if you click on see more, you will see that there is the latitude and longitude here. So, I'm going to take this one instead. So now I have my latitude and longitude. So you'll also notice that the latitude and longitude is always in the format lat colon latitude and long colon longitude. That's because this is the format we use here. It's the geometry class. And then whenever we talk about location, it'll always be in the format latitude and longitude. So now you've set the center of the map, you've set the zoom level, and let's see, let's save this and see if you have a map. So there you go. So my map is centered to the Invalidenstrasse office in Berlin. And at this point, the map doesn't do anything. If I click on it, it doesn't do anything. It doesn't zoom in, it doesn't zoom out, it doesn't pan. So what I need is, and first of all, I also don't see any zoom in, zoom out options. So if you go back to vigo.here.com, you will see that there's this plus and minus signs to zoom in and zoom out of the map, or you can also do it with uh, the the mouse pad or whatever. But you can see that you don't have those right now. So these are two things, right? One is the default UI of the map that's missing, and then the other is the event handling capacity. So any click, any drag is an event, and we haven't really told the map to do any event handling yet. So I'm going to go to the documentation section again, and then go to map controls and UI. Now what I want to do is add the basic UI components to the map, and the ones which were already, so the default ones, right? And for that, so we've already loaded the map.js core and the map.js services. Now we want to load the libraries for the map UI and then the default style sheet. So again, I copy this part where I'm just loading the map.js library. I go in here, and I put this in. So what we've done is taken the libraries for the basic, we've taken libraries for the map UI, and then I'm going to load in the default style sheet, which is this right here. So I put it here, and so once we've added the libraries, we need to initialize the default UI. So again, you go to the developer.here.com, documentation, map controls, and UI, and you'll see that we've done this so far. And now we just need to create the default UI. So you go copy this here. And now if I save this, I should see I have this nice little plus and minus buttons. I can zoom in, I can change the map view to satellite. I can add traffic conditions, traffic incidences. So there you go. You have the basic UI. And of course, you can also modify this. We'll talk about this again. Although I can zoom in with this UI, I still cannot zoom in with my mouse pad or trackpad. I still cannot point on the map and move it to another region. So this is, again, as I said, this is the event handling of the map. And for that, I need to add the capabilities to handle events, which is also in the same section. So if you go to map events, you'll see that you have all these events that the maps can handle by default. So to be able to do that, you load in the events library. So again, you just copy the map.js-map events.js. Again, I add it here. And then I need to add capabilities to handle these events. So the default behavior as well. So again, I enable the events, and then I need to have the default behavior, right? So I'm just going to take this and initialize the default behavior. So there you go. You have the map events enabled. And again, make sure this is the same variable names. And then you have the default behavior initialized. Once you save this, if you go to your map now, give it a second. Yeah. So now if you can see, I can pan the map. I can zoom in and zoom out with my trackpad. So we have what we say the basic boilerplate template for your map. And this is, you load in the map core, map services, map UI, and then the map events. And then you add all these default capabilities to your map. So this is the most map, like the basic map that you need. And from here, if you go to the Maps JavaScript API, you will see that there are many more things you can add and change. So the first one I will talk to you about is adding custom styles to your map. So right now the map is a default, this particular color that we can see here. And if you want to sort of modify it to fit your, let's say, the theme of your application, the branding colors of your application, or if you want to highlight something else in your application, if you don't want to highlight the roads at this point, so these are like sort of national highways. So if you don't want to highlight the national highways, but you want to highlight some other parts of the map, you can always change the styling of the map. And that is basically done in the, so if you go to vector, and if you scroll down a bit further, you'll see that there are different ways to style the map itself. The easiest way I would say is in here, hidden here is the style editing tool. So if you open the style editing tool and open the default style, you will see that the whole styling of the default map. So this is the default normal day map the style that we have right now. And if you see, this is where all the layers are defined. So by layers, I mean, if you if you just scroll down here, you will see that there is the global colors, textures, labels, etc. defined. And then if you go in styles, within styles, you have the layers. So within the layer, you have the earth, you have land use. Within land use, you'll have hospitals, parks, forests, uh, other layers that have been added. You also have the water layer as well. So you have the water layers. How do you want your rivers to look like? How do you want your seas, oceans, etc.? So you can change all these things from here. So you can change all your styles from here to match your map itself, or to match your application style itself. So what you can do is, one is that you can either directly write this, or you can change it here. You can see the effects here. So at this point, I'm just gonna change the font, let's say. So one more interesting thing is to change the font and see if you want a map that loads faster. You can also use the lighter font. So then you have an application which boots up faster, which loads faster. So like I said, I changed the font here, and I can see how this is. And then when I'm happy with my styling, I can just download this. So I have already done that. So if you can see here, so in the styles, I have the font Arial style that I just changed right now. So the normal style, and I just changed the font. And instead, I have this whole styling sheet, which I have changed a few different things here. And now if I want to change my map style, what I'm going to do is add this style to my map before loading it. So I'm going to do it right here. So after the UI is enabled, where style. Now, again, you can see this here in the documentation. How do you set different styles? Or another amazing fact is that we have a lot of examples that we have produced using all our APIs. So you can just go to the examples, and in styles and layers, you have this set a map style at the load time. So you can see that the example here is loaded a map style with like intense changes with the night version, sort of, because we have the normal day as default. You can also have the night version of the map, or like dark version. So what you do is you just get the base layer first. So initially you need to get the style provider base layer. So I will copy this, and I have the provider. Then set my style. So h.map.style. So this is where the file is at. My file is local right now, so I'm going to just copy this part. Because this style is the form of or the version of the normal style, we also need to give the source. Yeah, we also need to give the source of this. So this is the source, and then I have my style here in styles. Is it called? Let me see. Yeah, styles, and then style dot YAML. And then I want to set this. Oh, sorry. This should be here. There you go. So I have set my style, and then I've sort of defined my style in this step, and then I want to set it. So I have the provider dot set style, and then so now if I check my map, it should be in the new style that I had changed. So there you go. So I have changed a bunch of things here. You can change and explore the different styles, the different elements that can be styled, different polygons, different labels, which ones you want. So I sort of got rid of all the smaller labels on a certain zoom level. You can also do that. So explore the style editor and sort of change the style of the map as you want. If you want more details, again, if you go to the guide section of Maps JavaScript API, you will see all the details of how to, what are the custom styles, what layers, what are points, how do you filter them, how do you change the way the way they look. So you can change all that here. Now the next point is that if you want to customize the maps to a particular region. So you always want them to be um, compatible with the language that you use locally. So that again is two things. So one is either within the map style, you can change the UI of the whole map. So if within the map style, you can change the language to here. And if you just want the UI to be in a different language, you can simply do it by, in the default layers, you just do comma and you change the language here, and you'll see that the menu is in German right now. So you can customize it to your local language. Again, you can find the code here. So you can find the documentation for it here. So if you scroll down to the map controls and UI, you will see that you have all the local languages possible, which are supported by the map right now. And then you can also change, if I change them in the style itself, I'll also see all the other names of the countries in German. So, so France will be called Frankreich and so on. Right now it's still France, and yeah, only my UI is completely in German. So that's about styling your map UI. Again, if you go scroll down a little bit, you can also see that you can also change the position of these map controls. So I'm going to go in and show you one. So I want to send, so if you can see, there are three um, basic elements of this map controls that we have. So one is the map settings, where you can change if it's a satellite or a normal, if you can see the traffic or not. Then there is this zoom control, and then there is this scale, which you can toggle it to miles and kilometers. So if you want to change the position where they are, you can just again go to the map controls and UI, and you can see that you can individually set them where you want. So I'm going to show one to you, which is I'm going to change the position of map settings, and then I want it to be map settings, set alignment, top right. So now if I do this, you can see my map settings are on the top right, and you can set them wherever you want, in the sense in alignment with what we have here. So to find out where you can set the controls to, you go to map reference, API references, and in that you go to h.ui. So you have the h.ui here, and here you'll find the layout alignment. So you have top left, top center, and all these options where you can set. Now, interesting to look at here is you also have the unit system which you can set. Right now, I'm using a metric, which is the default unit system. You can also possibly change it to imperial, and then everything will be in miles. So right now, if you can see, the default is meters, and if you can sort of toggle it to miles. But if you want to set it to miles indefinitely, you can just change the unit system to imperial. So now we have the basic styling elements of the mark of the map. We have the look and feel of it. We can change. One more interesting thing is you can also change the angle of the camera. So we're looking at it in the sort of a 2D way. So if you hold options, or if you hold Alt on your PCs, you can see that you can change the angle and then zoom in and sort of get a 3D view of the buildings around you. You can also set this map angle. So if you want to set that, if you want to sort of permanently set this angle, what you need to do is you go to map, get view model. So what this is basically the view model that you're setting. This was right. And then you need to set the look at data. Now in that you can set many things, which is the tilt of the angle, the heading of the tilt of the map, the heading of the map. Again, if you just go to the, let me see, h.map. Yeah. So if you go to the view model in this, you will see that you can set all of this. So you can set the position, the look at position. So where we have set the center of the map. Then you have the zoom, you have the bounds, you have a heading, incline, tilt, etc. I'm right now only going to tilt. So I'm going to tilt it to like a 60-degree of the map. So I'm going to set tilt to 60. And if I have this, you'll see my default map will be sort of tilted to a certain angle and not 2D like we saw initially. So there's more customization you can do with the way the map looks. Now, what we're interested in is getting our position. So to get to basically get the position from the browser, you can simply call the browser API, which is get position. So you have so this is not specific to your maps and services. It's specific to your browser. So you need to check if your browser supports this. So you have, if your browser supports geolocation, if it has it, navigator.geolocation get current position. And then if you have the position, what you need to do is let's say I just want to log the position. So I'm going to position. I want to, yeah, dot log, and then you have the position, right? So now if I do this, I should, oh, I need to write an else for this. So else I have just alert me that geolocation is not supported by your browser. So now if I do this, if I load this again, it should give me a prompt. Okay, so I already, okay, let's do this. So now it should ask me to allow for location access or not. Once I allow this, you'll see that my geolocation has been logged on my console. So again, it's in the form you get latitude, you get longitude, and you get altitude as well. So I want to place, now the best thing is I want to place, oh my God. So let's do this again. My browser just crashed. gonna do this. Yeah. So now I have my geolocation in the form of latitude and longitude. And now what you want to basically do if you get a position is place a marker on it, right? So again, markers are objects on top of a map, and you can easily find documentation for that. So you have map objects, and then you have the first ones being the basic marker. And for markers, what you need is you need to get a position for the markers, right? The one basic thing is you need to have position for the markers. You can then add sort of different icons for the marker. So we're going to just add the basic default marker here. And we want to add it on the position that we got with our geo coordinates. So what I'm going to do is now if I have the position, I want, so let browser position be, so like I said, the position is always in latitude and longitude in this format. So I'm going to define this in that format. And then let's see, where do we have the position? So we have position dot, okay. So you have position dot coords. So you have coords, and then within coords, which is coordinates, you have latitude for latitude, and the same for longitude. So you have positions dot coord dot longitude. So now this is just, I've set the position. Now I want a marker in that position. So what I do is let marker equals new h dot marker, and I want it in the browser position. So here you go. And now I've defined the marker. I need to add the marker on the map. So I go map dot add object. Add object is the function you need to use. So you have object and then the marker that you define. So you can, of course, name it anything as long as you follow the rules. And now once you have that, oh, I think h dot map dot marker. So here you go. You can see that there is a nice little marker on top of the location that is my current location. And as you can see, the default marker is like a teal, we can call it teal, yeah, like a teal marker. You can obviously sort of change the logos. You can have an image as a logo. You can have an SVG as a logo. I'm going to show you quickly how to have an image as a logo. So what we're going to use is the property icon. And the property, let's say position icon, right, is equal to new h dot map dot icon. And then I'm going to give it the location to sort of an image that I already have. So let's say I'm going to use the home.png. So I have image slash home.png. And then I need to set this marker. Give me a second. So it should be before this. And I want to set this marker as the icon. So I add the property icon to my marker and pass in this position icon. And you should see that the icon has changed. Yes. So now you can have any markers you want. You can have an SVG marker. You can have an image as a marker. You can have DOM markers. So you can also add other capabilities like altitude, or sort of what do you call it? Sort of a stick to the marker to elevate it and to see if you're sort of zooming in to many markers, you can add the possibility to how they zoom in and zoom out. So that's the basic markers as well. Then you can add a lot of capabilities like I said, the events, map events, right? Right now, the basic events is to tap on the marker and it sort of pans. If you tap and drag, it pans. So you can add other capabilities, like if you want to add um, if you want to tap on the map and get the position. So what you would do is you would have add this sort of a tap handler, event handler for tap, and then get the position of the map. So I can quickly show you that. So what I need to do is I need to add a listener for my yeah, a listener for my map. So I'm going to add a listener, and then I want it to listen to tap, and I'm just logging the event. I'm just going to log the whole event. So let's see what happens. So now once we do this, if I tap here, I get this whole object, which is current pointer, and then I get viewport X and viewport Y. So I get the numbers for the viewport, complete viewport. And then I also get the target pointers and a bunch of other information. What I want to do with this is get the location where I have tapped. So I'm going to use the viewport information to get the location itself. So again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the property of screen to geo coordinates. If you go to the API reference section, you'll find them. So in this, I'm going to use so now I have the event, right? So I'm going to say that, um, let's see what we got. Yeah, okay. So let pointer equals the event dot current pointer, right? So you want the current pointer, and then you want to access the viewport X and viewport Y, and then you want to get the screen to geo coordinates. So this is in the format X comma Y. So you have pointer position. So let pointer position equals map, and then screen to geo, and you have the pointer dot viewport X comma pointer dot viewport Y, right? This is your position. And then you again, you know the deal for the marker, right? So you have to add a marker to this position wherever you click. So now I'm going to name this pointer marker, and then let's see, you have this as the position, and then add the object, the marker to the map. So you have, so there you go. So if I click anywhere on the map, I should get a sort of a nice marker. And then I can also add other capabilities. So to this marker, I'm going to add pointer marker dot set data, and then I'm going to add a string to it, which is hi, I'm here, right? And now I want to add, if I click on the marker, I want to add a sort of an info bubble to this. So now if, again, this is again on a tap event. So if my tapped event or tapped object is already a marker, is an instant of. So I'm going to use an instant of edge dot map dot marker. If that is the case, I want to add an info bubble to it. So again, I go to the guide, and then within the guide itself, you again in your UI section, you will see that you have a way to add an info bubble to your map. So this is, again, I set the data for the map, and then you have the info bubble. So I'm going to use this. So I have a bubble, info bubble. I want the position. And I want the position to be the same as the target position. So I'm just going to add event dot target. Now here I can use the get geometry because we have already identified the target. So I'm going to use get geometry. And then instead of the content being this, I want to add the content that is already in the marker itself. So event.target.get data, right? And then I wanted, if there is no marker at all, I want it to create a marker. So let's see this part here, right? So this should give me, let's say, so now this will give me markers at different places. And if I click on an existing marker, it should, okay, so we haven't added the info bubble. We just defined it, we haven't added it. So I need to add the info bubble as the UI element. So UI dot add UI dot add bubble, and then you have the bubble itself. So now if I click on existing bubbles, I will get this, the data that I've set. So I think I'm going to stop here to with the demo, and then maybe if you have any questions, you can just ask me the questions in the chat, and then I can answer them step by step. Again, this is where this is not the end. Again, of course, you can add circles to where you if you want. So you can add circle as a map object. You can add polygons. When you create routes, to show routes, you will use the geometry polyline. So all these are map objects that you can play around with. You can also check the documentation here, as I said. So if you have any questions at this point, just drop them in the chat, and Sam, will you help me sort of navigate through this?
Sure, Shruti. I haven't seen any questions in the chat yet.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as I see something, I will read it to you.
Definitely.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, thanks a lot for this amazing demo. I personally learned a lot, and I hope it was the same case with the participants. And I'm very conscious of the time.
Mm-hmm.
But I would have asked, like, how can we integrate, for example, an isoline and show it on a map? But probably that would be another webinar.
Right, and I would say that isoline would go under a routing. So you need routing first. So I think we would
Yeah.
cover that in another webinar. But
Yes.
if you're short of time, I can quickly sort of do a few shout outs to help developers start with something.
Sure.
Is that
And we've
okay?
got another 10 minutes. So
Yeah, perfect. So then
plenty of time.
for everyone out there, if you go to the GitHub Here Maps repository, you'll find there's a bunch of examples that we've already done using different APIs that we have. If you go to the maps JavaScript examples, you'll see that all the things I talked about today are already in the repositories here. There's more, of course, and you can again fork the repository, try it for yourself, or just try to do it by yourself and then try to compare. On the other hand, there are some interesting workshops for you. So if you go to the let's see, I think it was the JavaScript. Okay, so if you go to the DevRel repository, if you go to the DevRel workshops, you'll find there's a bunch of start with us sort of workshops. And if you go to the JavaScript workshop, there's nice little workshops for you to start creating something. So if you go to this one, which is step by step, you sort of learn to create the boilerplate map and then sort of create use the Places API to drop in EV charging stations around you, and then you sort of create a circle, which sort of shows how you can reach them. And then because Sam talked about isoline, you also have the small isoline routing, which will show you which are the ones you can actually reach. So you can find these workshops in the GitHub repositories for your maps and within the DevRel workshops. Also, at the same time, I would like to point out that we at TierDev are doing 100 days of code. So if you haven't started it yet, we started posting one task every day since the 1st of April. So it's we are on day 26 today. But if you haven't started yet, don't worry, we have a repository for you. So if you go to this repository right here, 100 days of code, we have been posting the solutions for all the tasks we've done so far. So I've uploaded until day 20. After day 25 today, I upload 21 to 25, and we'll be doing this for 100 days, as it says. So with this, you can slowly, step by step or day by day, sort of learn everything that is there to do with your technologies and maps with your technologies. So those were my few shout outs. So Sam, we can.
Yeah, great, Shruti. Thank you very
Yep.
much. There is no question from the attendees. Yeah, I don't have any other question either. So if you have covered everything, we can close the webinar, unless you want to share
Perfect.
this. People.
Is there a possibility to share these links in the chat somewhere?
Yes, you have access to the chat.
Okay, so I'm just gonna share the. I think I can only send messages to organizers.
Yeah, if you can share it with me through our
Perfect.
online platform, and then I will I will communicate it with the participants in the Slack channel.
Perfect. So you have the workshop, the workshop link, and then I have the 100 days of code with your link, and the developer.here.com, of course.
Yeah.
And also, if you want to learn about more APIs, you can just go to the resources block section of the developer blog of developer.here.com. So you'll find a lot of blogs, step-by-step tutorials, codes, and use cases of all the APIs that we have. So you can also take a look at the blog section and go through it. So I'll also drop this link. And I think that's it from me.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, I don't think there's anything else to cover and talk about. So with that, I can close the webinar. Thanks
Perfect.
everybody for attending the webinar, and also Shruti for her awesome webinar and the content and the instructions to use interactive maps. Yeah, I personally learned a lot, and I hope it was the case with the rest of the attendees. Yep, there will be some additional upcoming workshops in the next few days, so stay tuned on the Slack channel of the Hack for Better Days Slack, and yeah, we'll be announcing them shortly. Yeah, I will see you in the next webinars. Thank you very, very much, everybody,
See you
and
all.
see you next time. And thank you, Shruti. Bye.
Thank you, Sam. Bye-bye.